Hello, and welcome to episode 71 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, we are going to try to understand color. It is a difficult topic for some people in that color is pretty subjective and changes depending on the light source. So we'll get into that in the episode. Hopefully you'll come away understanding how you can develop your skills in understanding color a little bit more. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that we have some free downloads for you. You can find those links in the show notes, and also a design quiz to understand what type of interior design maybe you should specialize in. Whether you should do residential, commercial, hospitality, or spatial experience design, you can find out the answer in a short little quiz. The link is in the show notes. Okay, let's talk about color. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Okay, let's talk about color. As you are well aware, color is very personal and subjective when it comes to your favorite things. Often when you're young, people ask you, what's your favorite color? Or what's your favorite animal? So color is definitely something that you are naturally drawn to, certain colors. They make you feel a certain way. You might have them associated with memories and a lot of subtle things that you might not even be aware of. There is a great Japanese proverb that goes 10 people, 10 colors, which means that if you have a room full of 10 people, you might have 10 different approaches to something, or, maybe 10 different colors that they say is the right color, like a shade of white. How many whites are there? There's hundreds, maybe thousands of whites out there. How can that be? Because everybody sees color differently and everyone wants something out of their color that appeals to them. I saw a translation into English of 10 people, 10 colors that says, so many people, so many minds, everyone has his own ideas and tastes, and it takes all sorts to make a world, to each her own, different strokes for different folks. So that really kind of does sum up how difficult color can be when you are selecting color for your project. So as an interior designer, color is going to be everywhere and everything, even if you're just doing neutrals. So color theory is definitely something you can dive into a little more deeply on your own if you like, but we'll just touch on the basics of understanding color theory. Usually what comes up with color theory is that you're studying the hues, the tints, tones, shades of the color wheel, and then you'll see that certain colors are complementary to each other or analogous. So whether they play off each other, they're right next to each other and they blend well. So all of these things come into color theory and why you might like to see pops of orange or rust played against blue backgrounds, which often I'm designing in blue. So it's one of my favorite colors. It's one of most of my clients' favorite colors, and everybody kind of likes blue. I think I've said before, it's like one of the most popular colors in the world. We have it in the sky. We have it in water reflecting the sky. So blue is everywhere and it's usually very calming and relaxing, but we like to spice it up a little by adding some warmer tones. And usually those are spice colors, reds or oranges or rusts and things like that, that really are pleasing to the eye when you see them together. But you could also do analogous. So what's next door to blue on the color wheel is green. So blues and greens play really well together as well for the very calming environment that they can have. And if you're wanting to have very stimulated environment, you want a lot of conversation, a lot of activity. Maybe it's a dining room and you want to encourage appetite, then you're going to go with the warmer colors, so reds here, purples, oranges, and things like that. So there's been a lot of study about how color affects a person's attitude, affects their body. You're seeing these colors coming in and being processed by your body, and that there's a lot of subconscious things going on. They say yellow is great for learning environments. So if you put it in classrooms, kids are much more likely to absorb what they're learning because the color yellow helps to stimulate the right areas of the brain. It's so fascinating. So there's a lot of science to color, but I feel like there's also a lot of intuition. But what's most important for an interior designer to know going into it? So what I typically will recommend for my mentees is to go to a paint store. So anyone that's close to you that you might like to use. It could be Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Dunn Edwards is one of my favorites. And they will have a color wheel. So that's like a long rectangular book of sorts of different color swatches. And inside of those, you'll usually have gradients, and you'll go from more saturated to more muted tones. And this is really going to be your best tool for understanding color. I love having my color wheel with me, or this paint deck with me whenever I go selecting colors, because I love to be able to compare the color that I'm looking at with the ones that are next to it, up and down on the color wheel, because then I can understand, okay, this color that I'm looking at right here has more green to it, because the one next to it I can see has more pink undertones. Undertones are kind of the thing that you really need to know, if nothing else, with color. I mean, everybody knows what the primary and secondary colors are, but undertones are so important when you are designing, because you'll have it in your tile, your fabrics, your flooring, your paint color on the walls, and then the lighting value will change the undertone perception. So how can you understand undertones better? Well, I would suggest that you check out Maria Killam. She is a color expert, renowned. She's out of Canada, but she's been on all kinds of publications. She has great Instagram. If you want to check her out, she's always posting. She loves color and loves to teach people about colors. And she has whole color wheels that will help you understand undertones. So it'll have a whole circle of whites maybe together, and it'll have one that has a pink undertone, one with a yellow undertone, one with a green undertone, one with a blue undertone, one with a purple undertone. And you'll be able to see all these together, and you can see what is happening with this white. Why does this white work in this situation and not in another? You just have to spend time learning it. I feel like one of the best ways that I learned color was when I was working for a model home designer. We did so many projects within a year that I really had to use a lot of different paint colors and understand, and I was constantly picking paint and tile selections and everything like that. So perhaps it was more intuitive for me, or perhaps I just trained my eye more. And it could even go back farther, where as I always enjoyed painting, I enjoyed drawing, sketching with colored pencils, drawing with crayon when I was little. My dad was a painter as a hobby, so I would watch him paint. And it's possible just being around all of this color from a young age helped me develop my ability to see the differences in color. I think it would be terribly hard to be colorblind and be a designer. You might not be the one who's actually selecting finishes. You can still do, of course, space planning and all the other things. But when it comes to color, you really need to see all those subtle differences. And training your eye over and over and over is the best way. So where do you start? I would say with your own space, your own room. I mean, when I was little, I painted my room out 4 or 5 times. My daughter's already on her way there. We've already painted her room 3 times since we moved to this house. And so you get to see in person. So you'll select a paint color. Don't select it in the paint store, by the way, because that's always got typically fluorescent type lights above you, things that have really poor color value. And they're higher in the Kelvin scale, so it's not going to look right. So bring it home. Look at it in the daylight, take it outside and look at it, bring it inside, and then see how it's different. And then get some swatches, or even just paint the room. If it's a small room, that'd be best, or a bathroom or a closet or something. And then you'll get to see from that swatch of paint on your card up on the wall how it correlates. And I feel like I've been doing this for so long. I love paint consultations. It's one of my offerings, and I can pick and select paint fairly quickly. I could do a whole house in an hour. I'm very confident in my paint selections, and I think this just comes from doing it over and over. I have tried and true colors that I love, that I know always look good in almost any circumstance. And then this just gives me more confidence, gives my clients confidence going forward, because paint is one of the things that we say makes the most impact. It's one of the least expensive things to change, although it does cost a good amount in order to paint a whole house, especially the exterior. But if you're painting all of the interior and exterior, you want to get those colors right the first time, right? So hiring a professional to do it would be great. And so you as a professional need to really, really know your color. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to put a link to Maria Killam's website so you can see all the courses and offerings that she has so that you can really know color. I'd say if nothing else, besides CAD drafting, this is going to be your next skill to develop. Really, really important and really enjoyable once you have confidence in it. Color is a lot of fun. Even if you're a person who really clings to the neutrals, you can do a lot with white or gray or black or brown or beige or whatever with those neutrals, and they all have undertones. So really important to know. Of course, if you're a maximalist, you're going to have color everywhere, and you're going to need to understand how all of these colors can come together and still look pleasing to the eye. Okay, so that's it for color this week. I will do my best to try to get a color expert on the show one of these days so that we can talk a little bit more about this important topic. So maybe now you'll start noticing color as you're out and about and observing it in the wild, and maybe start to understand a little bit of the undertones and the hues and all of the things that go along with color. And of course, if you want to understand and work with that a little bit more, you can join my design mentor, and I can help you as you are developing your color skills, give you some projects and some things to do to help you really hone in on those color skills, which are so important as an interior designer. Everything plays together with color. So color is one of the great foundations of interior designs. So if you understand color, then you can be doing some great things. That's it for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. Stick around. We'll have another great episode for you next week. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you loved this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.